Hey guys, Chris Dick here. Today I'm going to be working on how to display a list of checkboxes that would relate to a one-to-many selection list. In this application, it's a games manager. So essentially how it works is we will have a list of games and a list of genres, and a game can therefore be related to many genres, and likewise, a genre can be related to many games. So if I create a game, naturally I may want to just automatically be able to select all of the genres that this game is associated with, rather than doing it one by one using the game genres controller. And I'll get into that in a moment. So what I'm going to talk about first of all is how the database is set up. All right. So in our genres table, we have some very simple information. If you're trying to duplicate this system, I'm just going to script this right now out to create to, and you can pause the video and you can see what the script looks like. And that way, of course, you'll be able to get up and running if you really need to do that quickly. So it's a very simple table. We have a GUID as our primary ID. We have a default with a new ID if it gets created, and then we have a create and edit date. Okay, same for our games table, very similar. All right. It also has a GUID or a unique ID for the primary key. Okay. And there are no foreign keys associated with this in these tables. However, if we go into the game genres table, we have two foreign keys. Okay. We have one that is related to a game, which is our game ID, and another one that is related to a genre, which is our genre ID. All right. If we go into the models for each of those, okay, I'm going to show you first of all the game genre model. Okay, and again, if you need to be able to see what this looks like, you can pause the video, and I'll make sure that I just go down to the bottom so that everybody can fully see what is in this model. So first of all, we have a key in our genre, in our game genre table, and that is right there. Now, some have asked me, can I use the game ID and genre ID as a combination key? And you certainly can, but we're just keeping this simple right now, and we're going to be using these two features here. Oops, there we go. This feature is a gamer ID, and then we have our genre ID, and of course we have naturally our related navigation properties for those. Now, next step, let's go into the game object. All right, so the game object, as I mentioned, is related to our game genre object. All right, we called this genres, all right, because a game has many genres, but the only way we get that is by using our game genres table because it has the foreign key relationship. Okay, naturally on the opposite side, genre has a set of game genres, and we call it games. Okay, because it's going to be pivoting on the opposite axis of this table. Okay. Now, one thing I want to do is before we get into this, I'm going to just make some things look a little nicer here. When I display my form, I kind of want things to look a little nice here. So I'm going to just I'm going to say this is my game when it displays in the form, and then I'll just go down here, and this will be my genre. Otherwise, it's just going to show genre ID, which looks a little ugly, and game ID, which also looks a little ugly. So if we play this, I'll show you what the features look like right now, and then we can get started with the lesson. Okay, we're at our application here, and first of all, we're going to go to Games. All right, and in our Games table, we're going to see an entry here. Our game is called Test Gaming. Okay, it is currently related to one genre. If I go to Details, okay, you can see here if I do a debug and go into genres, you see that I've got one genre related in there. Okay. I'm going to take that debug point off there, we'll just continue on. All right. And what displays here is our nice bulleted list in the details. Okay. Now this bulleted list is going to be very important later on, so I'm going to show you in a moment how that works out. But what we will do is we're going to go into the game genres create just to show you it's painful in this process here. And one thing I noticed here is I do not have my display coming up here. So let's also deal with that. We will in a moment. But what I was explaining here is that this would be a painful process if I had, thousands of games and thousands of genres to match. So I've got one game, and what I can do is I can create another game genre. So that means that test gaming is now related to two things, two genres. Okay, if I go back to games, you'll see it here, and I go to details, and I see it in my list again. All right, now I'm going to look at, first of all, correct that little item that I noticed there. We'll see if there's something wrong in our object. This little bug here, so when it was scaffolded out, it was just put in there as hard-coded information, and that's not so good. So we're going to take this out, and the label for control will automatically take from the display name. So we'll take away these, and what you'll see is if we go back over here, now we see what we put in our display. Okay, now we just got a little bit off track there, but wanted to make sure that we fixed some things. Okay, so if we go into our game details, okay, what we have here is a nice little bulleted list of genres that are currently related to the item. Okay, now if you recall, genres is a collection that comes in from what's currently in the database. So if we're creating an object, we won't have any genres in the association yet. So we're going to have to we're going to be having some dummy data, and I'm going to work with that in a moment. Now, if you notice here, we have label 4 again. I'm going to change this to genres. Okay, so now the title is going to be genres. And if you didn't see this, I just copied down and I just put it into, so I have my form group below. All right. I'm going to highlight editor 4 here, and I'm going to delete that and just overwrite it with the information I copied from our details. Okay. We also want to change our validation so that it shows the correct information for validation. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, we are in the create function, so we don't have any information coming from genres. But what we will be doing is asking for genres from a view bag object. Now, a view bag object is a dynamic object, and you can sort of apply anything to it, and it'll allow information to be transferred from the controller and into the view. Okay. What we are also going to be doing is we're going to use a special type of select list, and this is called a multi-select list. Okay. The multi-select list allows, unlike the select list, which only allows for one selection, in other words, like a drop-down box, this allows us to do multiple selection. All right. Then, if you notice here, what we had before was a collection of game genre objects from our game model. So now we're switching that over to a multi-select list object, which means that we have a couple entities in here that we really need, but namely we have value and our text. The text that we want to display is obviously called text. Okay, and because this is just in a bulleted list right now, we don't have any information that we need to store behind the scenes. Okay. Now, if we go over to the games controller and we go to the create method, all right, I'm going to stop this. All right, our create method, as I mentioned before, we are able to pass in information from the controller into the view bag, which allows us to go into the view. Okay, so here we're going to create a multi-select list. Okay, we're going to ask for the genres from the database. All right. Next thing that we're going to ask for, we're going to use a different field list here. We're going to ask for the um, genre ID as our value field. Okay. We're also going to ask for the name field from our model. And we do not have a group, but we're going to use a different overload here. And just for the sake of it, I'm going to pass in model.genres. Now, if you remember, model.genres doesn't have any information in it. But this will allow me to do later on is allow me to just copy and paste it into the edit function, which when when we ask for the information, model.genres will have information in there. And again, we'll use that later to our advantage. Okay. Now, if I play this, what I should see in the create view is a nice bulleted list. So we'll see what comes out of it. Okay, so if we go now into games/create, all right, what we're going to see is a nice bulleted list of our genres here. Okay, so now that we've got this, we can sort of envision how how our checkboxes are going to start looking. Okay, excellent. All right, so we don't necessarily need our bulleted list, but we'll just keep them anyway. Okay, so here we're going to do type equals checkbox. Okay, value equals at item dot value. Okay, and then we'll do that, put that there. All right, so when we display this information the way it is, it'll display as a checkbox with a value attached to it, but we also want to give it our an ID, okay? Because what will happen is that as this thing is processing all of the genres, it's going to create an array of um, checkboxes, okay? And when that passes into our post create, it's going to pass in as an array, and we'll deal with all the items that come in later on. So I'm going to give this an ID and name of genre IDs. Okay, so now we'll go back over to our games list, push refresh, and it will now give us our checklist items. Okay, now if I go in and inspect that. I'm using Google Chrome, so I can go back in here. I can look into the value. I can see that my value for that genre is here. All right, action adventure. Okay, same with comedy and test. All right, so we've kind of got we've got lots of good stuff here already. Um, now, when we look at the games controller in the post method, okay, right now we are only binding name and is multiplayer. Okay, so what we now want to do is add genre IDs. Okay, now genre IDs is not part of the game model, so we want to ask for genre IDs. Now I'm gonna sort of go back and forth. I'm gonna show you what comes in when I select genre IDs, but we'll run this again and do a little test. So now we're here at our list, and I'm gonna check off two games or two genres here, and just make sure that I've got a breakpoint there, which I do. I'll push create. All right, so now I come in here and I go to my genre IDs in my list of parameters. And what you see here is I have a nice list of values because these are the values that I selected in my checkboxes. Okay, right now they do nothing. Okay, so what we have to do, however, is we need to have a valid game object before we can add our game genres, or our genres, I should say. So now that we know that we actually have information that's coming from the post. Oh, and by the way, guys, uh, this information here, the name of this parameter, matches the name of the controls that are coming in. Okay, that's a very important point. All right, now when we do this, now there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I'm just sort of taking things the long way because I want to make sure everybody understands what's happening. All right, so when we come in from our form, okay, remember we have an array of strings that are coming in. All right, so we have genre ID in genre IDs. Okay. Now for each genre ID, we want to add some information to the database. Okay, and this comes in the form of a game genre ID or game genres. Okay, and we're going to create a game genre object. Okay, game genre equals new game genre. And we're going to be adding that in. Now our game, all right, is coming from, our game ID that is coming from model.gameID. Okay. Now there's two things that you want to be aware of. We can do this in this respect because we're assigning the game ID within our create method. Okay, so that means we have it before we save. So I don't necessarily need to save my changes, but I do need to save changes in this respect because when it goes off and creates it, it won't exactly be there. So there are faster ways to do this, but I'm just doing this for brevity. So let's do that. So we'll put in a genre, and we're using the genre ID from this list that we're creating. Now one thing I forgot to do here is actually assign a few variables of its own, and I should have paid more attention to what I was doing here. But remember, we have some patterns in MVC. Okay, one that we've set up on our own, is the fact that we have create edit date, and we also have our IDs that we set up, and I forgot to do that. So our primary patterns go like this. For every object that we have, we create a primary key and a create and edit date. So when we're doing our creates, we do this. Okay. And that is why that error came up. It's not very descriptive and it really doesn't tell you a whole lot, but from experience, I recognize that that's why that error comes up. And that's a little bit of a silly mistake, but my bad. We'll figure it out. Okay, we're back here again at our create page. I'm going to select a couple genres, run create, and if all goes well, this will now bring us back over here. Now this was the game that created before, so we'll just ignore the fact that it's there. But we now have our game, and we can go into details, and of course that's related just the same as it was before. Okay. All right. Now I can go back in, same thing, to run another one, create, and you can see it's right there. This is the one I just did. Okay. All right. So what we've accomplished now is we have figured out how to interpret the values that came in on the create side. In the next video, I'm going to work on the edit side, and it's a little bit more complicated. So I hope you'll join me in the next one. Thanks a lot, and remember to like and share my videos. I really appreciate you taking some time, and enjoy. Thank you. Bye.